What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man. This is a live rant that I'm going to do because I just watched something that really fucking pissed me off. And it just makes me go, what the fuck is wrong with people in this world, it seems like, or at least in the NASCAR world, because I just watched Eric Estepp's recent video, his review of the race, and it just completely fucking irritates me because he basically talks out of both sides of his mouth on this occasion. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to basically watch the video, and then I'm going to stop it at certain points and basically give my opinion on things, and I'll basically tell you why it pisses me off. So let's get into it.
During green flag pit stops with about 55 laps to go in this race, there was a tire spotted rolling across pit road towards the racetrack and onto the infield grass. And there it sat, just a few feet off the pit lane, but in the infield grass, there's the trial, the track is over here, here's pit road, the tire was like there, drawing you guys like a 3D map here. Anyway, tire on the track. Per the rulebook, per historical circumstances, that usually results in a pretty quick caution from NASCAR. It's a huge chunk of debris that, while it's very far from the racing groove, if a car were to spin out and hit it, you're sending a big heavy projectile that could go into someone's pit box or hurt, injure pit crew members or officials or media that are on the infield. It is a hazard, and per historical evidence, at least NASCAR usually, in fact almost always, throws a caution very shortly after a tire gets loose like that. Today, however, NASCAR decided to swallow the whistle. 1 lap goes by, no caution. Okay, 2nd lap, still no caution. 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 laps are going by, still no caution, no word from NASCAR. The tire's just sitting there this whole time as cars are soaring by at full speed. Why was NASCAR refusing to throw the caution? Well, pit stops had not completely cycled through yet. By the time the tire got to that weird precarious spot, there were really only 2 cars, I believe, that had not pit yet during that green flag cycle. It was Ricky Stenhouse and Chris Buescher. Within a lap or two, Stenhouse pit because they were short on fuel, but Chris Buescher stayed out. He stayed out for lap after lap after lap, trying to catch a caution because he believed, per historical evidence, that a tire sitting there in the grass would warrant a caution.
And that I actually agree with. I mean, Chris Buescher, he was staying out long because he was expecting the caution to come out, which it never did, because NASCAR was deciding to, wait until the pit cycle was, complete. And Eric is also right here in the fact that they usually throw the caution right away when a tire gets loose like that. So, I definitely agree with him in that aspect. And Buescher was staying out on the using the strategy to stay out because, they were expecting a caution flag at some point. That never occurred until 4 laps after the pit cycle was complete, which was pretty stupid. But let's continue.
But 10, 11, 12 laps go by, still no caution from NASCAR. Chris Buescher, finally, short on gas and tires, decides to pit, and still no caution. Another lap goes by, another lap. I think 2 or 3, maybe 4 more laps go by until NASCAR finally decides to throw the yellow flag with about, it was like 33 or 35 laps to go. They waited almost 20 laps longer than they probably should have to throw the caution, and that had fans, rightfully so in my opinion, in total uproar. I'm shocked that they didn't have a view of the 17 team yelling and just cursing out the officials that were in their pit box.
Uproar is an understatement. I was pretty much spitting fire the entire review. But continuing.
Because this is blatant race manipulation. Like, NASCAR deserves all the scrutiny, all the criticism in the world for this. This was, I can't believe they made this call in a NASCAR Cup Series race. This is the worst call I've seen since I guess February at the Daytona Road Course for that, fake rain caution to spice things up. Although at least that one, it was more of a judgment call. This one seemed pretty much black and white. There's a tire on the infield grass. Try to find an example in recent history of them not throwing a caution for a tire in the infield grass. I'll listen to it, but as far as I know, that's always a caution, almost immediately. So this one seems black and white, but they still got it wrong. It's blatant race manipulation. They wanted the field to cycle through. They didn't want Chris Buescher to be a huge beneficiary of this fluke deal. Like, I get it. Throwing a caution for a tire getting loose and being pretty far from the racing surface, that's lame. I understand NASCAR's perspective. I mean, that's a super lame reason to throw a caution late in a race, but it's still a caution. You know, that the caution is the correct call. So they eventually got the call right. I think it was right for NASCAR to throw the caution. The problem is that they waited almost 20 laps longer than they should have to throw the yellow. Like, if the tire was not a safety hazard for those 20 laps, it wasn't a safety hazard at all, and they should have just not thrown the caution. When they threw the caution, I'll admit, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Because this just opens up a whole new can of worms. Like, NASCAR fines teams and drivers for intentionally spinning out, for artificially altering the outcome of a race. They should fine themselves $50,000 for this one and divvy up that money between the JTG Doherty and Roush Fenway teams they effectively screwed over by not adhering to their own rule books and consistencies. Like, I don't know what NASCAR is thinking here, so I don't have anything good to say about it. You know, at the end of the day, did it play a huge role in the outcome of this race? Like, no, not really, because...
So this is where I really started to get irritated with Eric at this point, because... And I was getting irritated before that because on the one hand he says that NASCAR was doing blatant race manipulation, which was what I was talking about. But then on the other hand, on the other foot, he says that eventually NASCAR made the correct call. And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Okay, you can't walk both sides of the street here, dude. It's either the correct call or it's not the correct call. Okay, on the one hand, you're saying it's race manipulation, but on the other hand, you're saying they eventually made the correct call. You can't have both sides of it, dude. That's fucking stupid. Okay, it just makes you look incredibly disingenuous with your opinion, because it's like you're not straightforward with it. You're not taking one side or the other. You're trying to, you know, walk both sides of the street. And then on top of that, he tries to come here and say, well, the race wasn't really affected all that much. Bull fucking shit. Bull fucking shit. NASCAR could have, like he said, NASCAR should not have thrown the caution flag. And honestly, they shouldn't have, because if they didn't throw the fucking caution for 20 laps for a tire that was on the goddamn grass, then they shouldn't have thrown it at all. So yeah, he said, I mean, it just fucking irritates me, because on the one hand he says it's race manipulation and was heavily criticizing them for it, but on the other hand, it sounds like he's still sucking on NASCAR's ball sack by saying, well, NASCAR still got the call right. No, they fucking didn't. I mean, it's fucking bullshit, dude.
Again, I believe throwing the caution was the correct call. The only people that really screwed over or affected were, you know, Chris Buescher and maybe Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who, if NASCAR throws the caution immediately, as they probably should have.
Did you know the source of odor in your home could be all your...
Fucking ad.
House probably end up around 10th or 12th on the restart, as opposed to like 20th or 25th, wherever they ended up being. So basically Stenhouse and Buescher are the ones that really got screwed in the deal. Other than that, the caution was the right call. It was going to lead to a late race restart anyways.
They did not need to throw the caution, Estepp. So saying that, you know, Buescher and Stenhouse were the only ones who screwed is so fucking short-sighted, it's not even funny. And you call yourself a fucking expert in NASCAR, dude? Like, are you serious? Like, I've had my disagreements with Eric Estepp in the past, but this is just fucking stupid. I mean, this may be the worst take I've ever seen Eric Estepp have in NASCAR, and he's had some doozies, but this one is just, what the fuck? Okay, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, and you're also talking out of your ass, okay? I mean, that's just fucking nonsense. You know, to say that, you know, well, the caution was the right move to do. No, it fucking wasn't. You know, and it just irritates me to no end, because it just makes you look incredibly disingenuous. When on the one hand, you're criticizing NASCAR for race manipulation, and then on the other side of that, you're saying that it was the correct call to throw the caution. I mean, what side are you on? I mean, what's with this flip-flop bullshit that goes on within 5 minutes of this video? Like, it's a bunch of fucking nonsense. And then if that wasn't enough, guess what he gave this race as far as what he put on the groovy gauge?
I think it was by NASCAR to wait 20 laps to throw that caution. Throwing the caution was still the right call at the end of the day. So all those late race restarts, I think, were supposed to happen. And yes, it got a little sloppy, got a little chaotic. You had contenders taking themselves out of the race, like Hamlin hitting the wall, like Larson and Blaney getting together. It got a little crazy. It got a little funky. It messed up the finishing results a little bit. Got some new names up there, but Kyle Busch had one of the fastest cars all day long, getting the win. A deserving winner. That always is a positive in my book. Restarts were crazy. The long runs were hit or miss. Like stage 1 ended with a long run, and we saw 3 or 4 cars under a blanket swapping the lead back and forth in the closing laps. That was great. But then stage 2, after pit stops, Kyle Larson had like an 8-second lead, and nobody contested Larson at the end of stage 2, so that was kind of stale. It was hit or miss, but overall I'd say this race hit more often than it didn't. The terrible tire caution call by NASCAR definitely leaves me a bit frustrated, but as irritating, as inexplicable as that call was, it did not have a huge effect on the outcome of this race.
Bullshit.
So I'm not going to let that taint my score too much. I'm going to give the Bushy McBush Race 400, what a name, oh my goodness, a 70% on the groovy gauge, a very solid, very entertaining race.
A 7 out of 10, basically. A race that was pretty fucking boring in stage 2 and stage 3, and after that caution became a total fucking mess, and he's giving it a 7 out of 10. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, I'm honestly starting to question whether or not I should trust Eric Estepp at this point. And he's usually one of those guys that's as on the straight and narrow as it is, but I mean, in this one, he's just talking out of both sides of his mouth, and this just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, dude, because as a reviewer, I mean, you're supposed to take everything into account, and it just seems like he's just not doing that, and it seems like he, to me, the tire caution, is a big, negative point, because it just leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. And yet, he seems to gloss over that. He still calls it out for, calls NASCAR out for race manipulation, but then on the other hand, he says that the caution was the right thing. So, I mean, if he's just going to do that shit, then why should I even trust what he says anymore? Like, that's just a bunch of fucking nonsense, man. As a reviewer, you're supposed to take everything into account, and it just seems like he's being, he's just cherry picking, all the shit that he wants to, say, well, this was bad, but it didn't, I mean, it's fucking nonsense, and it's pretty clear that, despite his quote-unquote criticisms of NASCAR, he's still pretty much a fucking NASCAR shill, and it just irritates me to no end. I mean, if NASCAR fucks up, you need to really give it to him, okay? And to me, it just feels like he only half-heartedly gives it to him, because on the one hand, he says that NASCAR deserves all the criticism, and yet at the same time, he said that the caution was the right move. I mean, that's just fucking stupid. I mean, you can't play both sides of the street like that, dude. It's either the right call or the wrong call. There's no fucking middle ground. And once again, it just underlies the fact that it really makes me wonder why I even cover this fucking sport. Because if the pundits are just sucking on NASCAR's ball sack, then, what's the fucking point? It honestly makes me glad that I want to start covering Formula One, because Formula One would be a lot less headache-inducing than this fucking bullshit. God damn it. Can't have anybody with any fucking common sense anymore. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about. This just really fucking irritated me. I thought Eric Estepp would be the voice of reason here, but he's just as much of a fucking shill as any of these other NASCAR pundit assholes. Fucking A, man. But thank you very much for watching this little rant. Just fucking really pissed me off. But thank you very much for watching. And I guess I'll see you when I see you. Fucking stupid.